Hello, it's time to get started. As you can see, I've got Studio One open here. If you haven't installed Studio One yet, that's pretty essential. So there's a document underneath this video that you can find and take a look at, which will explain the whole process about how to install Studio One both for Mac and for PC. So once you've done that, you can open up your copy and you should be presented with the page that I'm looking at here, which is the start page. So this should open every time we start up Studio One, and there's a number of things to look at here before we get started making music. So let's jump in. First of all, we've got our version of Studio One at the top. So I'm using Professional, which hopefully you're using as well, but you could be using Artist instead, which is just kind of a pared down version of Professional. It's still the same application, it's just missing some features and loops and things like that. So below this, we've got a few options: create new song, create new project, or open an existing document. So songs are what we're going to be using all the time. A song is the main file type for Studio One. That's where you're going to compose all your music, and basically what we're going to be looking at for the vast majority of our course. And then we've got projects. Projects are for a different purpose. They're for mastering. Mastering is basically the final step in creating music. And whether you're creating an individual track or creating an album, we can use projects to finalize the song and make it really just sound its best. And if we're creating an album, we can do a whole bunch of other things that assist us in making sure that the album sounds consistent from one song to another. Next to that, we have open an existing document. So this is what it sounds like. Both song files and project files can be opened once they're saved on your hard drive from this button, and we'll just bring up a dialog box like this, and we can just open whatever projects or songs we need to from there. So next we have the recent files list, which currently has nothing in it because we haven't created any files. So when we're getting into this, we're going to open some songs that I've created, and then you're going to start writing your own songs using this song file format. And all those are going to show up here in a big list. And then we can just, instead of having to go through the open existing document dialog box and go and search for our songs every time, we can just see the most recently used files right here and jump into them really quickly. Here we have songs and projects, which is just obviously what they sound like. Once we've started creating some things, these will populate as well with all the songs and projects that we have on our hard drive. Next, we have this artist profile and SoundCloud. So yours probably has no image here currently. I've uploaded this myself. This is the Lydian logo. And this is just for basically creating what's called metadata, or a portion of the metadata for your songs. So once you've completed a song, it will take some of the information you've put here and encode it into the file. So if you were to open it in iTunes or something else, you might see the picture, the name, and as you can see, we have a genre and a website. So SoundCloud, this is something else. This is an external website that we will be taking a look at later, where you can host your own music, find new music, share things with people. It's totally awesome, and it's integrated with Studio One in a quite deep way that makes sharing music really easy. Below that, we have the setup. This is our hardware setup. So depending on your setup, you may see a different picture here. This is a picture of my audio interface. Now, you may not have an audio interface, which is totally fine. The audio interface is used for recording microphones and instruments like guitars and things like that. And this is an interface that PreSonus makes called the Studio 192 Mobile, which is the one that I use in my home studio, and that's why I have a picture of it here. And below that, we see just a couple general settings that the hardware is using right now, which we'll get into shortly: a sample rate and our device block size. And then we have some options to configure the device, which again, we're going to wait on that right now, but when we need it, this is where we can find those things. Below that, we can see a check for updates button. So from time to time, PreSonus, who makes Studio One, is going to release updates both incremental, as in just small new versions, and then sometimes whole new versions of the program. So right now we're in Studio 3.5, Studio One 3.5.1, and that may receive an update at any time. I don't know when that would be. And then eventually, presumably, we'll see Studio One 4.0, and that would be a whole new version of the program. So in case your copy does not automatically tell you there's a new update, though it should, you can always push this button and it will check for you. Here, this About Studio One, this is where we can see who is licensed to, and we can see our product key, and we can also see what version we are using. Now you can't see my product key. I've blurred that out, of course, because that's my own for my own activations, and you'll have your own. And we also see the credits here of who worked on the program. And we can get a link to go to the Studio One website if we need to. Beside that, we're looking at the news feed and demos and tutorials. So the news feed is just updated quite regularly, actually, with interesting sales that go on for extensions and expansions that you can get for Studio One, new plugins and new content, as well as just a variety of other information regarding updates of the program or things to do with PreSonus in general and the products that they offer. Beyond that, we have some other options at the top here. One is for our SoundCloud client, which we'll get into later. Another is for macro organization, which we'll also get into. And then these are kind of how we navigate the different main areas of Studio One. We'll also get into that soon. And that's really all the important information about this page. So if that's all clear to you, then we can move on to the next video.